Hey guys, so now that we are past the initial phase, I guess, of hype for the 7th year anniversary units, I want to sit down and just quickly talk about my thoughts on the units. I, released the other video discussing the actual translations and the kits of what these characters can do. Didn't talk about my thoughts just because I wanted to get that video out ASAP. So in this video, I'm just going to be adding on sort of like what I think about these units and just try to explain to you guys just why these characters, the Dual Dokkan Fest LR characters, are like seemingly almost untouchable in terms of how good they are in this game. So the first thing I want to mention, and I'm not going to touch on everything about these characters just because there's literally so much to talk about. Like, again, it took me over an hour and a half just to type all this stuff. This is one unit, by the way. This, starting from these 2 pages, this and this is literally one character. That is insane. It's ridiculous to see how far this game has come to where, you used to have a character that had a passive, you had like 5 or 6 links and a super attack, and that's it. That was the entire character. Now you have 12 and 18 key super attacks, you have introduction animations, you have active skills, you have categories like transformations into like basically everything. Like it's a new character almost. Like it's absurd what this game has become, and I'm excited to see what this game can do moving forward from here. But let's start talking off with just the new leader skills and also the new leader skill mechanic that these units introduce. So the first thing is going to be the Fusion/Potara Warriors category, which is actually pretty much what we have been asking for such a long time. It's basically just the de facto Fusion Warriors category. If you guys play Dragon Ball Legends, the way that game has, they call it tags instead of categories, but the way that game classifies characters is via tags, like Dokkan has categories, and they have a Fusion Warrior category or Fusion Warrior tag where every single fused character, whether it's Vegito, Gogeta, Super 17, Kefla, Gotenks, they're all under that same tag. That's essentially what this is, and I'm glad that we finally have this in the game. It just adds more expansion to team building, and it lets this unit as a leader really shine a lot. GT heroes, not really anything too crazy. We already had really good GT heroes category leaders, but having another one wouldn't hurt at all. And then they have this additional boost here, the Kamehameha boost. So the way that this works is, obviously you want to be under the 2 main categories for this leader skill. But then in addition to this, if you are also in the Kamehameha category, you are going to be receiving an extra 30% stat boost for HP attack and defense. So for instance, if you're using this character as a leader, and let's say you put, I don't know, the STR Super Vegito, right, from the Worldwide Celebration in 2020 on your team, they're going to be getting the main leader skill buff. So they're going to be getting the Fusion/Potara Warrior buff, right? The key plus 370% to stats across the board. And then they're also going to be getting an additional 30% stat buff because they're also in the Kamehameha category. So in total, that character, that STR Vegito character, will be receiving a key plus 3 and 200% stat across the board buff. This is a major step forward in power creep for this game, and we haven't really seen power creep in the form of leader skills in a very long time. We've had this category meta around since pretty much 5 years ago. It's been a little bit less than 5 years, but yeah, it's been around for a very, very long time. But to see this extra step forward in terms of leader skills, I actually think this is a good way of doing this because it lets you, mix and match units that you think are going to work better with the team for the, specifically the way that they're doing it for this leader skill here. But it doesn't make it so that you could just put any. It's not just like oh, this is just a dual category leader skill, and then they're just making it 200%. You have to fulfill an extra condition to get the extra buff, and I think that actually does work pretty well. If a unit, maybe you think they're too valuable to just put on the team, even though they're not getting the secondary buff, you can do that, or you can just build it fully around the secondary buff as well. So basically, the more specific you build your team, the stronger they will be. And I think that's a fine trade-off, right? The one thing that I think is interesting about this is actually, nobody's really talked about the HP side of this, right? Because you already have a 170% lead to HP. Then you're adding an additional 30% HP to your team per character who fulfills this condition. So it's like, if you have a full team where you're making use of the full leader skill here, you have a 200% HP leader skill, right? And it's like if you have a lot of LRs in your team, you're gonna see, I think, very often these teams eclipse like 750,000 HP almost with that extra boost. So thinking about that, like to me, that seems like one of the most ridiculous things ever, because you also have the defensive buff as well. Like it's crazy. You're almost never gonna die with this leader skill. And then the other thing I really wanted to touch on for this character is the fact that the first part of their passive, in combination with their fusion active skill condition, I think is what makes this character as good as they are. And what I mean by that is, this character has a 1-turn guard. So the first appearance that they have in a fight, they will be guarding all attacks. But then their transformation condition is able to be used after 4 turns have elapsed from the start of battle. So if you think about that, and you think about when are these characters, when is this unit exposed to being, taking a lot of damage? There's a situation where you're literally never exposed. Because once you get to Gogeta, I'm not going to go into depth too much about this guy, but once you go into actually Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta himself, you will never die. You will never die as a result of this guy taking a lot of damage. So if you make it to Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, you pretty much just win instantly. But because this unit's able to guard against all attacks for the first turn, if this unit is on your second rotation, they're going to be guarding in turn 2, and then the next time they come around, you're just going to be able to fuse right away. And once you do that, you're going to have a stack of defense, or 2 or 3 potential stacks of defense, because they do stack defense on 12 and 18 key super attack, right? So you're going to be guarding during that first turn. They can perform an additional super attack guaranteed when you have over 20 or more key. So you're going to, in most scenarios, doing multiple stacks of defense during that first turn, so that even if this unit shows up on your first rotation, they're not going to be able to fuse during turn 3, but you're going to have at least 2 stacks of their defense, right? Because this unit being a GT Heroes leader, and on the GT Heroes team, you're going to most likely be running this unit with at least 1 Orb Changer, because the 2 GT Super Saiyan characters, Goku and Vegeta, are both Rainbow Orb Changers, right? Not to mention they also do get extra key spheres. So it's like the or extra key from key spheres. It's basically like the LR Gohan mechanic. So it's going to be extremely easy to get this unit over 20 key. They're going to be able to stack defense, at least twice per turn. They're guarding during the first turn, and then once you make it to Gogeta, they're just you win the game. So my conclusion for this unit, and the same thing is going to be true for the other unit as well, is that the amount of I guess what's the best way to word this? There are like almost no scenarios where this unit is exposed to taking a lot of damage, because turn 1 they're guarding, then you're going to be able to stack their defense. So if you don't end up fusing on the next rotation, they're going to still be able to just sit there and be fine and continue stacking every single turn. They're going to get at least, assuming you built the team correctly, 2 stacks of defense per turn. And then if you see the enemy attacking like 9 billion jillion fulfillion times in the front, you just fuse, because this doesn't have an HP restriction on it, the fusion active skill. And let me just quickly talk about Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta here, because this unit is, like, honestly probably just like the most broken unit in the game just ever, besides like STR Gogeta or something. So because the way that this works is, remember, you're stacking your defense during 12 and 18 key steepers before you fuse. That carries over to the post-fusion Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. So Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta is entering the turn, assuming you have him under, assuming you have him as your leader, right? Because you're going to be getting the 200% boost here. He's entering the turn with like 300k defense. He's massively raising his attack and defense for 1 turn. So that basically doubles your defense. So let's just assume, here's a scenario for you guys, okay? Let's just assume that he starts the turn with 300k defense, which is not out of the question, because we just did a showcase over on the Twitch channel where he started the turn with 333k defense. So I'm just going to round it down to 300k, just for simplicity's sake. So starts the turn with 300k defense. He does an 18 key super attack, so that's going to raise his defense from 300k to 600k. Then he has a high chance to perform an additional super attack in his passive. Okay, so let's just assume you get that. He's going to be able to get a great stack of attack and defense for 1 turn. So that's 300k, 300k, then 50% raise, 150k, right? So that's going to be 750k defense. He's at that point. Then he could do another additional 12 key super attack. By the way, all these attacks are effective against all types, just so you guys know, and a medium chance to crit. So if he does that additional super attack, he'll be at 900k defense. Plus he has a 50% chance to nullify enemy super attacks and counter with tremendous power. So he has a 50% chance to counter supers. And then he has 7% damage reduction per Rainbow Keysphere obtained, which should be, you know, I would say an average of 2 Rainbow Keyspheres per turn, assuming you run the GT Super Saiyans in your team, who are Rainbow Orb Changers. This could be as high as, well, it could be as high as 35% damage reduction, but that's very, very uncommon. I think 2 to 3 Rainbow Orbs is probably the average, assuming you run double Orb Changers in your team. So 900k defense with a 50% chance to nullify supers and counter with, like, you know, 15% damage reduction. So he's invincible. This is the takeaway from this. Plus, he also has an active skill, pretty easy to activate. It's, you know, ultimate damage, guaranteed crits for the remainder of the turn. This Gogeta is pretty much invincible. I don't really see a way that he can really die or not just kill the enemy in one turn. So that's going to be all I'll talk about with this character. I mean, it's like almost like a cheat code. Not really much else to say here. The one other thing to mention real quick, which is also again going to apply to the other, the God Goku and the Vegeta character, is that they built these units in a way so that their links do not change once they transform. So for instance, this Super Saiyan 4 Goku and Vegeta, Super Saiyan, Kamehameha, Shocking Speed, GT, Fierce Battle, Saiyan Roar, and Legendary Power. He transforms and infuses into Gogeta. The link set is the exact same. They actually did not give Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta Fuse Fighter, which is actually unprecedented, I think, because it's like every fusion unit in the game has that, I think. So they decided to leave him with Saiyan Roar. So what you could do is you could actually run a rotation of the pre-fused unit and the Gogeta. So you'll have a rotation where all 7 links are active, and it's super easy to do. So that is a very big positive for this unit. And again, the same thing goes for the TEQ God Goku and Vegeta. I'm not really going to go into too much depth here because this character is literally the exact same character as the Super Saiyan 4's pre-transformation. They have the exact same, literally, this is literally 1 for 1. The only difference is their leader skill. We have the Power Beyond Super Saiyan category, which is, I believe it's just literally every Super Saiyan form after Super Saiyan. So it's a pretty expansive team. And then they have finally we get a new movie heroes lead. That is what we've been waiting for a long time. And then they have the Kamehameha secondary boost there as well. Super attack effects as well as passive, as well as the active skill conditions are the literally exact same as the Super Saiyan 4s. Links are Super Saiyan, Kamehameha, Warrior Gods, Godly Power, Prayer for Battle, Fierce Battle, Legendary Power. Very, very good link set for Realm of Gods based characters, so keep that in mind. And then when they transform, they have slight differences from Gogeta. So the way that Gogeta works is he gets damage reduction and crit per Rainbow Keysphere obtained, whereas this unit gets crit and evasion or dodge chance. This unit also has an innate 30% chance to dodge due to the medium chance to evade enemy attacks at the end there. And then they get attacks effective against all types when its key is 16 or above. And then they get a guaranteed additional super. And then another 30% chance to crit when key is 20 or more. So this unit, I believe Gogeta does not actually get a guaranteed additional super attack. I don't think. Let me just double check. There's so much here that I just want to make sure I'm not overlooking anything. Yeah, he gets a high chance to perform an additional super attack, whereas these guys get a guaranteed chance, assuming they have over 20 key, which is not going to be that difficult to do. But I just think when I'm comparing both of these units to each other, Gogeta to me seems like he is just flat out more dominant than the blue Goku and Vegeta here. Active skill is the exact same. So really, the only difference between these units is like the post-transformation or post-fuse forms, and then like their links. and categories, and that's it. And obviously the leader skill. So a lot of these units, a lot of the parts of these units are the same exact thing, but obviously very, very ridiculously broken. Both of these units are absurd. Let's go talk about Sin Shenron real quick. I actually think this guy's going to be pretty important for the GT bosses team when they decide to finally give us like an actual leader. Up until this point, we've had the LR Super 17, who's kind of just been a terrible leader for the team. We have the LR Shadow Dragons, and now we have the Sin Shenron, who are both, I believe the LR Shadow Dragons are 130% lead for this team as well. So we really need like an LR Omega Shenron. 170 across the board for GT bosses. 3 key. And then you know what they could do now that we have this boost system is what if they did GT bosses as the leader skill, 170% across the board, and then they could do a sub boost to that where if you have characters that are in the Shadow Dragon saga, they get an extra 30% stats or something like that. Like that could be something that they do so that all the Shadow Dragons, like all the Omegas and all the Sin Shenrons, are getting the extra boost from this. That can be pretty good. It's hard to do that with GT bosses just because, you know, GT has kind of been wonky in terms of how this game has designed the villains for GT, but Super Attack Effect is kind of okay. It's not crazy. Attack and defense for 1 turn. But the amount of extra damage this Sin Shenron is getting from all the different amount of orbs he has to get, like this adds up to be so much additional damage. And then he also gets like a high chance for an additional super attack. He's rainbow orb changing. This is the type of unit that the GT bosses team actually needs once we actually get that, like, you know, really dominant main rotation 170% leader. Like, again, I think it's probably going to end up being either like a Dokkan Fest baby or an Omega Shenron. We are definitely due for a new Omega Shenron. So I do like the way that they've designed this character. Just him requiring all of these